Today we are going to be installing this Minn Kota Terrova 24 volt trolling motor from start to finish, including an Epic battery 24 volt lithium ion battery with the 24 volt charger. We got the breaker, we've got our quick connect. We're going to be using a Marinco Connect Pro trolling motor plug and receptacle, and then also I've got a treat for you with some starboard, and we're going to be using some Tap Plastics Polyweld adhesive, which is for 2000 psi on HDPE, which is what starboard is, and we're going to need this in order to attach our trolling motor charger into our console to hold it into place, so that way we can have this permanently mounted in the boat to make it easier for us to charge the battery at the end of the day by just plugging it in. We've also got some 6 gauge wire because of how far we're going to be running it. I think I have 6 gauge in the boat that I'm going to be able to use, but we do have our 6 gauge just in case. Now, as the case is with most boats, we are extremely limited on the amount of space that we have in the boat to put batteries. So there was no way that I was going to put lead acid batteries into the boat. Well, actually, honestly, I haven't put a trolling motor on a boat without a lithium ion battery in probably 8 years. So, I mean, there is that factor, but we're using the Epic battery. This is a 24 volt. I really like the Epics because of the build quality, but also just all the features that they have. We've got the charger here, got it charged up, and they come with this indicator here. That way you can see the amount of charge that it is, as well as the ability to turn the battery off with the button that's on the battery. But you also have the app here where you can see the batteries, and you can just turn the battery on. And when that turns that on, now you can go ahead and see all of the charge and everything. Like you can see it's 100% charged. You could also go into the battery and see all of the levels of each one of the cells and everything that's about the battery. So I really like having all the information about the battery as well as the indicator. So if you don't have your phone on you, you can see what charge your battery is at before you even go out in the boat. So it's not just about the weight of the lithium ion and saving all the space and the weight with going with a single lithium ion battery, but it's just a better use with the constant power and all the other features that you have with lithium ion. But we have a bunch of other videos about them. I just wanted to throw this into this video just so that you would know that in my opinion, it's always better to use a lithium ion battery with a trolling motor because it's way more efficient than using lead acid. Plus you get the longevity, and like this one has 11-year warranty, but I would make sure that you get a really good one like an Epic that's a LiFePO4. It's not an NMC, but that goes into the chemical makeups of lithium ion, and you can see that in those other videos. Now with the trolling motor, we've got the instructions here along with some hardware as well as some stickers and all the instructions. This is actually the remote control. That way you can stand there and be able to control this from anywhere in the boat, as well as the lanyard that's going to attach that, so you can clip it on your belt, clip it on your neck. That way you don't risk losing it. And then this is going to probably be our GPS location. So here is the puck for the GPS. We're going to need to mount this on the boat. And then we have these 2 cables here, which these we will not be using. These are actually for advanced GPS and for you to hook this up to a Humminbird GPS. There are other features that you can get with the Minn Kota. I don't know every feature that it has. I know they can do like dual chirp and some other things where they can hook up to the GPS or your MFD depending on what kind of sonar and all the stuff that you have. So if you are looking for more features than that, then you know, kind of figure out what your electronics are before purchasing your trolling motor. Another consideration that you need to do before buying a trolling motor is the dimensions. So the length of the trolling motor is crucial, as well as the thrust of the trolling motor. So depending on how heavy your boat is, you will need more thrust for it to control and to handle your boat because it's heavier. Also, where you're going to be boating is also a consideration. So if you're using the trolling motor in say like an inlet or something like that where you have quite big rollers that come through, like say you got 2-3 foot rollers, then you're going to want more thrust and you're going to want a longer shaft on the trolling motor for it to keep the head of the trolling motor down in the water, which is why we went with the 80-pound thrust, because we use it in rivers that has pretty high current. And we also went with the 50-inch because we wanted that depth to make sure that the trolling motor stays down in the water whenever we're in a river or in an inlet where you've got rollers coming through. So as the boat's going up and down like this, that trolling motor head doesn't doesn't come out of the water and lose grip or control of the boat whenever it comes out of the water. Two considerations to think about. Now let's go put the trolling motor on the actual boat and talk about considerations to have when mounting the actual trolling motor on the boat, and we can get into the installation of this unit. Okay, we have two things to mess with first in order to put the trolling motor on here. So what I need to do is, one, I need to get these off of the boat. See the cracking that's right there? I need to kind of take this stuff off and inspect this location. We might have to do something with this bow eye and kind of look around what our situation is here, as well as our heading sensor. We need to figure out where we can stick this, that way we'll have a clear line of sight to the head of the trolling motor, which will probably be here. I'm thinking in the back corner, or possibly on the gunnel here on the side. Well, it looks like I have some problems to deal with here. So one is this side has to come off like this, so that hook right there is definitely in the way in order to get this side off. And then, not to mention, on top of that is, one, keeping that head inside of the boat. I do want to do that, but also if you look right here and you look at how much this gunnel, this rub rail, the point of the bow is sticking out. When I deploy this, you need 1.5 inches in between the shaft of the trolling motor and the rub rail. So let me deploy this, because you can already see there's one bolt hole right there that won't even be able to attach. And then also, like I said, you know, how am I going to get this plate off of here with that bow eye there? A couple of different things that we now have to look at. Let me deploy it and see what this looks like with it deployed and what we're actually looking like. And I'm probably going to take these sides off and see, you know, how much distance do I need in order to pull this side off to get to the mounting hardware that is in here. Because you got to take these bolts right here, there's a bolt here, and there's a screw there. You take those screws out and then the sides will come off, so that way you can get to the mounting hardware. I believe this is going to work, but this is not going to be near as clean as I thought it was going to be. So let me go ahead and go get some painter's tape. I want to tape up this section here, because I don't want to mark it up, you know, with this moving it back and forth and around and all that, because this is definitely going to have to stick out a lot more than I thought it would. Well, it looks like no matter what we really do, that thing is in the way, and or we can't get the head to stay in when it's fully stowed, and also when it's deployed. In order to get it that 1.5 inches, I need to get rid of that. I can find a cap or something like this, so I can find one of these that's a cap that'll screw down on there, because this has a bar that goes down through. See if you can see that. So you see that bar right there? So that bar, that hook is screwed onto that bar. So and then that bar is molded in, like above here there's a mold right there that's molded in, and that bar goes up through the top of that. And if I find a cap, then we can probably just go right over the top of this. Another thing that I notice is when this thing is all the way out here, it is, you see that head hits the rail there? That's because this bow is like bent in a little bit. So we're probably going to need to have a plate or something here either way, no matter what. All right, so I think I have this figured out. I got the head inside the boat here, and then I have, what I've done is I've taken the bow eye and I've just rotated it to that position. And I mean, this thing's sticking out quite a bit, but I can position this about like this to where I can still press this down without hitting the eye, and I got 4 solid bolts all the way around, so 4 is going to be fine. This is sticking out quite a bit, which leads me to my new concern, and that is that the eye of the trailer, or the roller, the bow roller there, putting this on and off the trailer on certain ramps, that could be a legitimate concern. I mean, everything else is good. Like up there, we've got our anchor locker. We can open and close that. That's the head's inside the boat. The bow eye is in position. Our side chaps can go on and off of the trolling motor, but the problem is that looking at this, where that roller is, you know, on certain water conditions, if the ramp is super steep, or you know, whatever it is, if the trailer is really steep, that bow, that eye, before the boat catches the bunks, is that roller coming up on it potentially could hit the trolling motor. So this is what I've come up with. I'm gonna have to remove that eye, and I think I'm just gonna go right over the top of it. So what I need to do is that, looking at this eye, the connecting rod is a lot higher. So I'm gonna try and get this rod out so I can cut it down some. That's probably a big leak there too, because of how far up this is sticking. So let me go ahead and try and get this rod out of here. I'll just get it pulled out, and I'm going to cut 1/2 inch of it off, and then I'm going to probably, I mean, I was looking around for one of these, but they don't have like a flat cover. And because I'm going to be covering this with the trolling motor, I'll be able to, I think I'm just going to try and take my grinder and just cut this eye completely off of this thing, and then I can just screw it down into a bed of sealant, and that will seal it and it'll keep it there. But yet I'll be able to put the trolling motor right over the top of it, because the trolling motor, I'll use the, you know, plastic rubber spacers to bring it up off the deck, which will go right over the top of this. So let me go ahead and, let me get the rod out so I can cut that down, and then I will also cut the eye off of this. Now we're looking good, so I'm just gonna kind of let that dry a little bit, and then these spacers, boom, they're like perfect height, so that'll be able to get our trolling motor up. So let me go ahead and just kind of let that dry for now. I'm going to once that's dried, I'll reposition our trolling motor, mark our holes, so that way we can stick the bolts down and mount this thing. I'm gonna need to find some fender washers. Normally I like to use a bigger metal plate on the bottom of it, but let me go see what I can find as far as bracing for the bottom, because just using the washers that it comes with, I think is, they're just, you want bigger washers than what they got. It's better to have a plate underneath it. Okay, so I think I'm pretty sure that I like this right here. Head is inside the boat, nice and tight. If we come up here and we look down here, this thing right here, that little cutout, you can see is just at the rub rail, maybe a little bit over. And when we look down here at our bow roller will not be, you know, as much of any consideration really when putting this on the trailer and actually trying to, you know, hit that won't be a problem. Now, one concern is right here. You notice how that is in there. I want to make sure that my compartment here can still open and close for the anchor locker. So let me go ahead and double check that. And as long as I can get those 3 things, which are pretty much the only 3 things that you're looking to achieve with a trolling motor is that the head is inside the boat, and that when it's fully deployed, it's not sitting on the rub rail and it can turn and not have any issues. And then also that any compartment that you have right here, it can open up. I guess you can consider it 4 because we are worried about that bow roller because we do trailer the boat, so throw that one in there. But other than that, everything looks pretty good. Let me test the compartment here, and then I'll sure up all 4 of those, and we will go ahead and pop our 4 holes in here, which are not going to be too bad. We got one here, one there, and then one over here. So I'll be able to mark those and then pop them in. And then I think I'm only going to need to use one of the rubber spacers over here. I might use 2 just to kind of give a little bit of a space in the back, just so that way any water that gets in there, I'm not going to seal around it. I want to allow any water that gets underneath here, because it's going to have that gap. That way it can just run out. You don't want any water sitting in there. I know it might look better if you put sealant all the way around it, but at the same time, that sealant will keep water in, whereas if you just seal the holes, then the water will go in and it'll come right back out. So let me go ahead and sure up those last couple things, and then we can drill our holes. Whoa, what are you doing there, bad boy? Ain't you a big boy? Yeah. I have to watch out for you, huh? Figured out where you're trying to make your nest. Straighten that out real quick. So right here I've got these are all looking pretty good. I got plenty of length below the deck for the nut and the washers. These ones I could make work, but I'm gonna go see if I have anything just a little bit longer. I mean, even a ½ inch or so is gonna give me more, it's gonna be better. So let me go see if I got 2 for the back that are just a little bit longer. And this right here, you always have to take these screws out to get to that bolt right there, to get that screw to go through. So that's all that happened there. That's nothing important. All right, it's about to go down. I got my Yellow Jacket Killer here. Let's see here. See what my, yeah, just got to get close to it. Oh no, I missed it. There it goes down. All right, where'd you make it to? There it is. Yeah, see that? A little bit of brake clean, quick clean. Bam, and that's how you take care of yellow jackets. Wasps, whatever you got. So I'm going to be using a combination of washers. This is the washer that it comes with, but I'm going to be using these on 3 of them, and I'm going to be using these on 1 of them. These are a little bit bigger, so I'm just going to double up like this and then stick that through with the nut on the other side, so that holds it. I'm going to go ahead, what I like to do is just put a nice bead of sealant around this, so that way I can stick it up there. It will stick to the top, and then I can come in and hit it with the nut and the other washer, so that way this will be nice and sealed on the bottom. And then the other one, this one's fine. It will hold without having a without having the secondary washer on there. Never mind, I'll put the other washer on there, so it'll all be double up. Every single one of them will be doubled up like this, so that way there's nice good strength on it, and it spreads the load over this opposed to just this. These will pull into the fiberglass, and I mean, depending on what kind of decking you're putting this into, like this kind of fiberglass with coring and stuff like that, it's better to use a bigger plated washer. Now the last thing that we need to do is go ahead and fill these old holes with something. Based on the distance that I have for this one, I might just countersink this one and stick a larger bolt down in there that'll kind of sit flush. These I'll probably just go ahead and get some finishing washers, cake them full of sealant, so that way I can just let them be where they're gonna be. That one I'm gonna have to countersink, but those three are probably just gonna get big finishing washers. And this is looking amazing. So got the sides put back on, got the finishing washers on there, so that's all closed up for the old holes, all sealed, good to go. Everything is looking really good. We need to put the prop on, and then after I put the prop on, I'm going to go ahead and start working on the quick connect. So right here I need to basically just zip this thing out, because the wires that are on this older one, I'm going to see if I can save the wires that are on this old one. So if I pull this out, all right, I don't even have enough room to get the wire. So what I need to do is pull more wire out of there, and I'll do that by coming in here, and just need to release some of this wire here. That way I can pull some through, and that'll give me a little bit more, so that way I can pull this thing out, and that's the best way I'll be able to work on these wires and mess with that. And then also on top of that, something that I want to do that is currently not there is that if you look in here, the nav lights, see if you can see this. Yeah, so you see my nav wire and that big cable that's on top of it, that is putting a lot of tension on my navigation wires and all that stuff. So I kind of want to give enough room in here with this cable, so that way my nav lights aren't going to be entangled in that heavy cable, so that way it's pulling on the wire every time you're going around in the boat. So one thing I'm going to fix with having that extra wire. So let me put my propeller on here. It is raining now, which is nice, cooling it down a little bit, but I will put the propeller on there. With the propeller on there, I'll work on my quick connect. Want to make sure that you get rid of this spacer, this cover here, and then also this red washer. Both those need to just be discarded once you pull them off of the propeller where they go. And underneath there is going to be this pin right here that the prop is going to slot into. We want to make sure you grease this up really well. I guess, you know, everywhere besides Florida, if you live up north, a lot of people don't use grease. Even right here they put Loctite on these, but down here in South Florida you better put grease on those or they will never come off again. It will be a nightmare. So I like to grease all this stuff up, and then we'll put this on it. You put it to snug. Once you get it snug, you go a quarter turn more, and that is the tightness. It's 22 to 35 foot-pounds or inch-pounds, 22 to 35 inch-pounds. I'm pretty sure. I'll double check when I pull the manual. The trolling motor nut is a 9/16, so that's for that. And again, you just tighten it until it's snug and then go a quarter turn. Easy as pie. We are looking beautiful. So now we will go ahead and move on to our quick connect. All I got to do is basically cut these little ends off. You cut those off so that way we can attach it to our quick connect. Oh! So these are actually super easy to mess with. All we got to do is, if you look back here, you see how it says number 2 and number 1. We basically just undo that screw, which opens this up. We can cut back our cable, stick the cable in there, and then tighten that screw back up. If you look here at this, number 2 has got the fuse and is positive, so just remember that on this. Just always look any of these quick connections. All you gotta do is look at the directions and just make sure you get positive and negative right. So here, number 2 on the bottom is going to get a fuse on it. We're using a breaker, but that is going to go to the positive, so number 2 is getting the red wire. And there we go, looking beautiful. Got our quick connect on here. You just gotta kind of lift this up, and it says insert there. You just insert that and twist it and lock it, and that's it. I mean, that's pretty much it. So really awesome. That's all done. Now I can go ahead and actually, while I'm up here, I'm gonna go ahead and stick my nav lights in, and then I can put this hatch back on. That way I'll be completely done up here in the front, and we can move to the back to the heading sensor. And there are our nav lights, looking real good. So that's finished. I can put my cover back here. Got a quick connect on there. Trolling motor's looking great. I'm pretty sure I got it level, but with those spacers I didn't have anything other to do. Now I'm not 100%, because you want the trolling motor to be level when it's in the water. So when you're using it, you want it to kind of be as level as possible. And the deck does sink in there, so I might need to put a little bit more of a spacer there. I didn't, so you know, if I need to, that's not that big of a deal to go ahead and pull those 2 screws out, lift the thing up, and then add 2 spacers. But I don't think I'm gonna need to. This is looking really, really good. Now I can go ahead and cut my links for the trolling motor power cable. So I just need to run my black one over around to where my battery's going to be. It's going to go to the ground, and then the red one is going to need to go up there to the battery switch, which is going to be the trolling motor battery switch, which is the middle one. It's not the outside one. That's the middle one for my trolling motor. So let me go ahead and run this cable just like I was the other one. I'll run it up all the way to there. I'll put a little loop on the bottom of it, and then I'll snip it, so that way that'll be ready to put to the battery switch, as well as my ground. I can run it over here when I got my battery in here and snip that to where that needs to go, and then we'll be ready to just put our ends on our battery cables, and that'll be it for the trolling motor install as far as this section goes. And we are down to the heading sensor. So what this does is it basically, I'm pretty sure there's no GPS in there. I might have said that there was GPS in there earlier, but I'm pretty sure that there is no GPS in here. The GPS is actually in the head of the trolling motor, and all this thing does is, the heading sensor, is it allows the boat or the trolling motor to know the orientation of the boat. So you've got to put this towards the back of the boat on one side or the other, so that way this arrow is facing right parallel with the keel of the boat, and then that way it also, you need to make sure that this thing can see the head of the trolling motor, and that basically lets the trolling motor know which direction the boat is pointing, so that way if you're jogging a line or you're doing a track or anything like that, it's able to hold the nose of the boat where it's supposed to be based on what you've told it to do with your controller here. So let's go ahead and find the best situation for this. I'm pretty sure it's going to be on the starboard side of the boat, and we'll put it towards the back. I'm going to have to put it on top of the gunnel. It's not the best place to put it. It's better to have it in the boat a little bit, but it is a small boat. It is a center console, and there is limited space to put this, so I think it's going to have to go on top of the transom in the back of the boat. All right, so this is where I have decided to go ahead and mount this heading sensor. So our heading sensor is going to look like this. I might even put it like right here. So looking like that, boom, it's got a straight view. So when the trolling motor head is in the water, we got a straight shot and clear view to the trolling motor. And we're going to also have this pointed straight with the keel. That's looking good. As far as the cavity that is back here, I might as well go ahead and pull my anchor light back out, even though I just pulled that out a minute ago. I can pull this out and drill a hole in here just to make sure that I have access, and then I can get here before I go ahead and put any holes in the boat. So let me pull this out, see what the access is over to this direction. I could also probably just pull the rod holder out. If I pull the rod holder out, then that would also give me a clear line of sight what's going on back here. And then my idea is to take my snake, attach it to the wire, and then snake it down to the bilge, so then I can get to that that other hose that goes up to the front. I also need to go ahead and snip these to make sure that I have enough wire to make it from back here to the console where I'm going to be able to attach this to power. So let me check the distances, check the wire, and then I will cut some holes and we'll mount this thing up. You can't see in there, but there is some foam starting back around here, but that's not going to be a problem with me going ahead and sticking a hole right here. This is going to work out perfectly. So let me go ahead and get my drill bit. We only need a hole that's big enough for the wire. If you look, I mean, that has got a, I mean, it's a tiny hole, so just going to get something for that size, and we will go ahead and get this thing over. Well, getting it over might be a little bit more difficult, so I might need a little bit bigger of a hole, unless I go get my grabbers and I can get it down in there, get my grabbers, pull it up, tape it to the snake, and then snake it down, because I need to get down this side gunnel here over to the bilge. So I'm gonna go get my grabbers so I can get a little hole here and get this mounted, and then I can grab the wire with my grabbers, tape it to that, snake it down to the bilge. Once I get it to the bilge in my hand, then I can pull it out, and then I could string it up to the front, easy peasy. And we are looking great back here. Got our arrow parallel with the keel of the boat, perfect line of sight with the trolling motor. Got our anchor back in, all sealed up nice and good. Our wire is down here to the bilge, so now I need to just kind of snake this. I'm gonna go ahead and see, I'm gonna see if I can't snake it with that without having to use my anchor line, because I don't have another string to leave in that tube. I guess let me go find another string, so that way I could just tie it to that other wire, and then we could just pull it up to the front and be done with it. First thing I need to do is make sure that this is not tangled in any wires right here in this section, but once I get that wired out and then attach that, I'll pull it up to the front and we'll have this thing rocking and rolling. Now I need to go ahead and prepare this area right here where I got that box. That is where I'm going to be using the Tap Plastic HDPE poly weld in order to weld that piece of starboard for my charger for the trolling motor battery that's going to go here. So I'm going to go ahead and scratch that surface, that way that'll be prepared. I'm just going to be using a, you know, sandpaper grit bit on Scotch-Brite pad on my little polisher here, and then we will prepare our piece of starboard for that position. Okay, that is nice and scratched up and prepped and ready, so now I can go and prepare the piece of starboard and make sure that I got that all ready to go ahead and stick up here. I'm going to take that panel out so I can put some clamps, and I'll clamp it on there when we glue it. So we're going to be using this TAP Plastics Polyweld, which is an extremely effective adhesive. This is going to be the ultimate test, actually. This is the most weight that I've ever put on something like this. This is 2000 psi on HDPE, so outstanding stuff. And I'm going to be using a piece of HDPE, which is starboard. This is going to be the starboard. This is going to be the glue side because this is a fresh. I'll take this off and this will all be fresh. In order to prep this, all we really have to do is you take a torch or a heater or something like that, and we heat it up. So we just, you know, run this by, and you'll heat it up. You don't want to get too close and melt it, but as long as you heat it up, it'll become like tacky. You really only need a few passes to get it really tacky. You don't want to melt it, but get it kind of tacky. But I'm going to pull this starboard, you know, this piece off so it's a nice, fresh, clean piece underneath. I do need to clean this side of it. I want to have my this is going to be the way it's glued up. So I want to take my charger, and I'm going to mount my charger like this. So my charger is going to be mounted like that, and then on this side I want to put a zip tie holder on both of these corners. And there we go. This is looking beautiful. Now I can actually be able to take, you know, this like this and wrap this cord around, something like that, and secure it nice and neat, and run it down to the battery. This too can come over here, and I can zip tie all these wires nice and neat on this side of it. And yeah, this is going to be perfect. This is, I mean, this is the most weight that I've actually put on anything like this. TAP Plastics, I'm pretty sure this is going to hold it, and I mean, I'm 80-90% sure that we're going to be good to go. I've just never tried anything of this weight, so this is going to be the true test for our Polyweld. But let me go ahead and pull the battery box out of the boat, that way I can get to this, and then I'm just going to be using some clamps. We'll stick these down in there, and we will clamp this piece to it. And once we get it sure that we're the way we want to be, I will prepare this by heating it up. We'll coat it in a lot of the Polyweld, and then we'll stick this bad boy, leave it overnight, and see how it holds up when we screw this onto it tomorrow. So those clamps will work for the top, and the bottom is actually also pretty good, but what I need to do is go ahead and find another clamp that I can get deep down in there, maybe a C-clamp, and I'll get a block of wood or something to be able to kind of disperse some of the pressure. So let me see what I can work up as far as another clamp, and then we will be able to treat that and stick it. All right, so that's what it looks like, and looks pretty good to me. So I'm going to go ahead and pull the piece, and then I will go ahead and stick it on there. I might even get another pencil mark just around it, that way I can kind of get right in the right spot. But yeah, let me mark that with a pencil, take it off, heat it, treat it, and then we'll put the TAP Plastics Polyweld on there. All right, we can go ahead and let that sit overnight. You can see it's got a nice smush out here. I probably could have got a little bit more over in that corner. We got a good smush out on this side too, so I think this is going to hold fine. I put quite a bit of stuff on there, so I mean, honestly, I doubt this thing will ever come off of there I probably way overdid it, but I've never tried to put something as heavy as a charger on something like this. So this is going to be a true testament, and I'm really excited to see how this plays out. Let's go ahead and take our clamps off of here and see what our plate looks like. I'm pretty sure it's just going to be awesome, but yep, got those off there. See how this thing is stuck? Oh yeah, oh yeah, that's not going anywhere. That thing is not gonna be going anywhere. That is outstanding. Gotta love Tap Plastics Polyweld. So now that I have that piece off, we can go ahead and screw our charger to this and kind of get our wires straightened out, and then that way we can actually put our battery box back into place. Something that I was not thinking about with the charger is the heat that's on the back of this. I was thinking about all the fan and all that and that heat going out, but I forgot about the bottom of this. So this does heat up, and if I was to put this straight to the starboard, I think it would eventually melt it and kind of warp it. So these are the screws that I originally had pulled out for it. Got that kind of a distance right there. So what I want to do now is I need to find a spacer of some sort. I kind of got all kinds of spacers here that I can use. I'm going to kind of go through this. I might even use something like this. These are actually pretty good. So I could do something like this right here, and that's going to stick my base up quite a bit. Now I just need to find screws that are going to fit that, because these obviously won't work. So let me find some longer screws that'll fit these, and let me see if I got enough of these to make these work. All right, there we go. I've got some screws, longer ones. I've got a washer for a spacer, and I got all these to go like that. I'll probably end up putting the screw in like this, and then kind of sticking it down like that, so that way it gives a nice good hold, and still plenty of meat to grab that starboard. So this is going to be stuck like that. So let me go ahead and install this into the boat and get that screwed to that piece of starboard. All right, so that looks amazing. Got nice spacers there. This thing ain't going nowhere. So that is beautiful. Got that hooked up, lots of space there for the heat to dissipate. Now what I need to do is go ahead and put my piece in here, so that way I can see if my indicator will fit here. If it won't fit here, I'm gonna have to find somewhere else to stick it. So looking at this, it looks like I do have enough space. I mean, I could stick it like that. That's going to be pretty tight. Now, do I want to put it over here though? I mean, that's kind of the... No, I think I want it here, because there's your charger, so I'm going to put it right here. I mean, I could even put it like this. So if I put it like that, that's going to give me a better space. But if I put it like that, it could interfere with my, you know, where my cushion and everything is. I got the hinge. I kind of need to put the cushion on here, and based on the cushion and where the hinge goes, I'm not going to use these through bolts. I'm going to get rid of those through bolts and put some self tappers, because, you know, this thing's going to be sealed with elastomeric and it'll be in there. I got to figure out if that up button is on the top or the bottom. My guess is it's on the top. So, but either way, that's going to probably end up somewhere. Maybe if I could center that. Yeah, I think that's what I want to do. I want to center it on that, so I want it centered right here. You know, I need to take some measurements, and I'll center it right here on the middle of this piece, and it'll be, you know, just off of it. I don't want it, you know, touching, but it'll be just off of it, and then my hinge piece can go up here on the top. So let me go ahead and get some pencils and the tape measure, and I'll mark this out, and we will cut this out. That's looking beautiful, nice and tight. Oh, I got a lot of soap on there still, but that's looking good. So now I just need to cut the zip tie on this and then kind of hook it up and run it. That way it's, you know, at least it's kind of like down there. That way I don't have to reach all the way up into here when I gotta put the batteries and stuff in there. Now we've got our heading sensor in here. So what I want to do is this, you don't want this to run with your battery cables and all that stuff because it can't interfere with this. So I want to take this, I'm going to run it along here. I'm going to, you know, rearrange how it's coming out this hole so that way it goes under everything. I want it to come up with my mechanical steering cable. I'll run it up the steering cable up to here, and then once I get to here I can bring it over and then hook it up to my power and ground based on how we're going to hook this up. So that's the heading sensor. Let me get it all zip tied. We can hook it up to power and ground. And here is our heading sensor for the trolling motor heading sensor, and we had to find a fuse. It does require a 1 amp fuse, which is pretty hard to find. I mean, 1 amp is very small. We just put a fuse holder like this on there. That way we can put a spare in there. Now I'm just going to hook this up. I think I'm going to hook it up to the GPS because we're always using the GPS, so the switch will be on. Heading sensor will just be on the GPS. So when the GPS is on, it will have power to it. So I'm going to hook this up, and that will be all for our trolling motor assembly. All right, so we got our heading sensor in here, got our fuse right here. It's accessible. It's hooked right up here to our GPS. All this is tightened up. It's all grounded. That's all good to go. And then I also went ahead and ran a wire for our float switch. So this is going to go straight to the battery. I just left quite a bit of extra wire here. There's the fuse. So when I get the batteries in there, we can hook that up. This is now pretty much ready for the battery box to go in here. I got this all to the side. Those are all good to go. This is the charger that can go to the side as well. So like everything's pretty much ready. So when the batteries go in, boom, we can hook everything up. Trolling motor battery is in place, all screwed down nice and tight, secure, looking great. I guess while I'm here I might as well hit these right here and put my lugs on there. I just need to grab my ground and then my charger wires, so I'll hook those up, tighten those down on the battery, and voila, there we go. Now that our trolling motor battery is already in there, everything's done, trolling motor's on the boat, we can go ahead and turn this thing on. Boop. So now that our battery's on, we can go ahead and come up here, turn our trolling motor on, so that way we got power. Breaker needs to be on. We can come up here and plug this thing in. With it plugged in, power. Okay, we got power. Okay, here is our controller. I need to... Oh, look, good to go. Man. There's the pairing button right here. You can hit that pair, which you got to download the One Boat app or whatever it is, but for us, I'm just going to use this thing. So the One Boat Network, agree, menu, gonna go to Bluetooth, pair the remote, pair to the motor, scanning for motor, hold the pair button. Motor completely connected, so motor connected, easy peasy, just like that. Now I got this, so I'll just deploy the trolling motor here. I'm gonna keep it locked up high like this because I don't want to hit the boat or anything like that. But let's see here. Yeah, we can turn the motor around. Beautiful. So that's that. Now let's see about turn the propeller on. Go up and speed. Cruise control off, cruise control on. Got different autopilot locked course. Then all these buttons here. There's a bunch of different things that this thing can do. But we've also got our battery here. So what I can do is, you know, if we're going to use it, turn this thing on. We're going to use let's say we're gonna go max. We're rolling 10. This thing's going as hard as we can. We can go here to our app. We got 95%. It's got a negative 4.5 amp draw on it. It is discharging time 1,326 minutes. It can hold at this specific amp draw. Actually, that's actually going up a little bit because there's not much there. So this thing is, yeah, it's only drawing 0.43. Let's see here, cells discharging 3.3. It's got all the cells there. Let's see, about dashboard. Yep, so that's pretty nice. 95% charge, and we can go at this speed for at least 1,300 minutes. Looks like it's climbing because it's not got that much draw. I'm sure it'll level out over time, but yeah, now that's how you install the trolling motor. Now, every trolling motor is going to be different. There are different ways of configuring this to use all of the features like the cruise control and all these tracks and the autopilot and all that, but you need to go out and you put the boat in the water and then you basically run circles. But other than that, that's how you install a trolling motor, and then configuring it, you just need to follow the instructions.